You're listening to the Wilson King Podcast. Run that track.
This episode of the Wilson King Podcast is brought to you by Wright Live. Need a wedding DJ? Play in a band and looking for gigs or networking? Have a venue that needs an exciting event night? Contact Wright Live for all your wedding, entertainment, band, and DJ needs. We are dedicated to providing the best entertainment, marketing, and production for all your special events. Go to our website at www.wrightliveevents.com, wrightliveevents@gmail.com, or visit us on Facebook at Wright Live.
What's up, everybody? This episode's brought to you by Josh's Man Cave at Total Image Salon. If you're new to the area or just looking for a new barber, go see my friend Josh. He's a wizard with a straight razor and knows his way around a set of clippers and gives a damn good haircut. I should know. I go see him twice a month. If you're of age, he offers you a shot of whiskey or a nice cold brew while he cuts your hair. If you go down and see him, let him know I sent you. What is happening, everybody? As you can see, I got a really, really dope guest with me that I found on TikTok probably, I want to say a year and a half, 2 years ago? Almost 2 years ago. And it's someone I've been watching forever. It took me a hot minute to hit him up and muster up the courage to hit him up because I'm like, this dude is such a likable guy, and I loved everything he puts out. Let's welcome... What's up, Matts.Alright?
Hi, everyone who's watching right now. My name is Matt. It's nice to meet you. I'm here today to talk to you guys and hang out on my new favorite podcast with my new favorite host.
Dude, I appreciate it. But nah, man, literally what drew me to you is, so, like I was talking to you about before, like, I'm still currently in the Army, and I've got a lot of friends that have been in the Middle East that like deal with PTSD or deal with other issues that have came from it. And I actually had an episode back in January with one of my really good friends, Allie, who majored in college in mental health and just got her bachelor's, about to start her master's for like special needs and all that. And we got into a conversation about the VA, and dude, I started bawling because of like how the VA can be. And like the way that like you talk about the problems you faced from serving, that like it drew me to you because I'm like, I wish more people would talk about it more openly on different social media platforms than what I've seen.
Thank you so much. You know, it's one of those things too. I try and tell people. So for the people who are listening who don't know, I served in the Marine Corps Infantry from 2008 to 2012. You may not believe it because I'm not currently eating a crayon and I do know how to spell. So a lot of people are like, you were in the Marine Corps Infantry? I was like, yeah, I know. I look like a lesbian. I can't help it, man. So I served in the Marine Corps Infantry. I did 3 deployments during that time, which is extremely unusual for Marines. The most usually get out of them is 2 deployments, and that's if there's a lot going on. And when I got out, I tried my best to not be one of those veterans I was afraid of being made fun of for, where I just wore the military in my sleep. So I actually didn't talk about anything. I put everything away for about 8 years, and that's what made me implode. Yeah.
Now, with you, does it help you whenever you talk about it? Like whenever you do some of the skits you do, or, you know, you go on your live and you talk about some of the things that you deal with, does it help you, or does it sometimes make it worse for you?
I think what I try and compare to when I talk about traumatic events, traumatic situations, is it takes the energy away from them. It's like calling out the boogeyman under your bed and telling him you know he's there, rather than waiting for him to grab you. So it does. It kind of diffuses it in your own mind to where it loses its novelty. It stops becoming as scary the more you replay it, because you know every detail, you've cried about it, you've broke down about it. So yeah, it helps. But I guess what doesn't help is my generation. I think we were one of the last generations of don't talk about it at all. Otherwise it's a lie. Like if you even bring it up, you're lying. And that's what was pushed on us. So it was like, that's why it took me so long to even want to talk about it in the first place.
Well, I think that's a problem with a lot of people, and I mean, even I got brought up, and I'm definitely a little bit younger than you, but I got brought up like very old school, like like keep
Yeah.
your feelings in,
Yeah.
and it takes a lot for me to open up about anything that I'm dealing with, and
Yeah.
no matter what it is, and so I understand that completely because I know personally, I've got no deployments. I haven't been there, but I got life stressors, and
Oh,
it's hard
yeah.
for me to even talk about that. And I can
Yeah.
only imagine how it is for service members in prior service who have been in those traumatic, super, super traumatic war experiences. Not saying anything else isn't traumatic, because there's other
Yeah.
things that can be traumatic, but
Right.
in those experiences, I can only imagine how hard it is to open up about it, especially whenever the military has just recently like is trying to put even more of like a concern on mental health, even though sometimes it gets pushed wayward.
Yeah. When I was in, it was 100%. When I was in, I wasn't a nice person either. I was a very vicious person and not a bully. But it was one of those things to where, I was homeless before the Marine Corps. I was an active criminal before the Marine Corps. I had been sleeping outside for a year and a half. I was a high school dropout. I had to go back for 8 months to get my diploma. And I talk about this openly on social media, but I had been robbing drug dealers before the Marine Corps. So like the person you're meeting now is someone I learned to be, but I was basically um, rabid by the time I joined. So I kind of fed off the Marine Corps infantry, and a lot of us did back then because Iraq and Afghanistan were going on. We fed off of other people's weaknesses a lot to where we found it motivating, and that's why even when I got into combat, I can't think of a single weak person that was with us because they were all getting dropped one by one over the time. It was a very different thing. So if you even tried to bring up the fact that you had something wrong with you, that was it. You were one of the people who were gonna. It was like Lord of the Flies, I would say. That's the best way to put it, like Lord of the Flies. And a lot of us were like that, especially back then. Guys who were joining the infantry during Iraq and Afghanistan are just, white boys from Indiana who've had their nose broken 8 times, Mexicans from Southern California who have robbed people, guys from Michigan who were secretly sociopaths. It was a very odd vibe to be in, and we were not talking about mental health at all during that time. Yeah, I hope that makes sense too, by the way.
Dude, that makes complete sense because I know someone who's, I don't want to say super close with me, but him and I's got a really good relationship that I've never once have asked him about his experience in wherever he deployed to, because he was in like mid 2000s. Yeah. Like so he was in like mid late 2000s. And I remember I told him that you were coming on the show, and he was like, "Wait, who is he?" I was like, "Look him up on TikTok. I think you will find some kind of like common ground with him."
Yeah.
And he literally hit me back up and like sent me 4, 5, 6 of your recent videos, and was like,
Yeah.
"Dude, all these hit home with me."
Yeah. That means a lot to me because it's a lot of people. I have, everyone who does social media has haters, right?
Yeah.
But the people that have a problem with me are usually the ones that it's hard for me because they're the ones the old me would have enjoyed bullying for trying to start a problem. Like, and I'm not trying to sound tough or something because I'm not that person now. If somebody tried to fight me, like I'd beg them not to because I mentally can't handle it. Like I'm extremely fragile mentally when it comes to altercation or confrontation. And that's why I try my best to use emotional intelligence to communicate. And that's why I'm so proud of it because I was never taught it. Like I was brought up without any parenting. I was brought up without any love or any family. I was like I said, when I got to the Marine Corps, I was like an animal who just said, "Here, be an adult now. Here's a rifle." And so this version that people are seeing on social media, some of the people who have a problem with, they're like, "This guy's, this guy doesn't look like he's ever been in combat. This guy's never been like this. And it's like, I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to communicate. I'm trying to explain my feelings. And then people like your friend will say, this connects with me because I can tell where he's been versus where he's at now just off of one video. Does that make sense?
Dude, that makes complete sense. And I'd another question I had for you is and I want to get away from this. I wanted to make this like the first thing we talked about right off the bat so we get into a little bit more fun conversation. But since you've gotten out of the Marines, do you ever stay in contact with any of the old battle buddies you had that like you had a connection with back in the day?
Oh, I ghosted everyone when I got out. And it was because when I was in the Marine Corps, I went UA. They wouldn't allow me to see my daughter born, and I went anyways. Like, that's the kind of guy I was. I was just very, I think I watched too many movies when I was younger. I went anyways. And so at the end of my Marine Corps experience, they took those days and they tacked them on at the end. So I ended up having to stay in a room for about 2.5 months because everyone had EAS before me. I'm not sure what they call in the Army, but end of active service in the Marines.
We call it ETS.
Okay. So they EAS'd like before me. And then I was in my room alone for months and I went crazy. I started seeing things that weren't there inside my room. And they all went home. And I think I held a lot of resentment towards being the last one. And then that added with not wanting to talk about emotions and trying to put the Marine Corps experience behind me and become the best civilian possible. I just ghosted everyone until a year ago. This month, actually, a year ago is the first time I've ever even hung out with any of them or spoken to any of them. Really.
Dude, I can understand that a lot. Like, I can completely understand that. And then the fact that you have come to a point where you can, or you've like have talked or hung out with or had that kind of strength to go and do that, like that just shows me where you have come, like where you are at as a person, because it takes a lot to take that like resentment or anything and go and talk to someone that you haven't talked to in 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah, I was and you know what the messed up thing is? It's not like when I got out, I was some broken veteran who didn't do well. Like, I got out and I went to trade school, graduated, got a job for 2.5 years where I put myself through college, got my bachelor's degree in project management, applied it. I ended up working for the world and nation's leading franchise for multiple years as a regional manager. I did well. And then I broke. That's when I broke. And that's when I finally talked to them. So yeah, it was about a year ago.
Well, man, that sucks to hear that, like, you, like, how well you were doing and then you broke. By change, mind me asking, do you still do project management or?
I left, my mentor. I was very lucky to find a mentor, which a lot of young men aren't taught to. So if there's anyone listening, the best advice I always give is find a mentor. I'm 34 now. I've owned my own business for about 2.5 years. I'm a sole proprietor. I work from home. This is my office with the magic cards and the video games behind me. And that's what I do now. And it's because of him. And I think, not that I use my degree anymore, but the degree is kind of what led me into it. And that's from using my GI Bill specifically.
So what is your business now? Like, what do you do with, for your business?
Oh, it's extremely niche. It is for anybody who does sales, does marketing online, who wants to actually understand the social media algorithms and platforms on how to promote their business, whatever it is, to either improve sales or understand things like marketing funnels, sales funnels to improve their audience. So like for you, I would work for somebody like you and say, you tell me, Matt, I want to get an extra 20,000 viewers a month. How do I do it? And my job is to tell you whether or not I'm able to. And that's what I do for a living now.
Dude, that is awesome. I might have, if for anyone who's looking at getting in contact with you, what is a way of getting a hold of you for that service?
Oh yeah, they can email me. So it's matt.g.jimez@gmail.com, or they can just message me on Instagram, Matts_Alright.
I love it, dude, because I'll probably be messaging you a lot more after this because social media is my downfall so I with doing the podcast, because I consider the podcast, even though it's a hobby for me, I also treat it as a job.
Right.
So I do the podcast, I do the Army Reserves, I've got a civilian job, and
Yeah.
I also pick up part-time work every now and again. So like
Right.
social media for me is like trying to do physics.
It's so it took me 2.5 years before I ever got anywhere, and I had to treat it like a part-time job. I was doing videos where I dressed up in drag or in a bear costume or trying to make the next viral hit, and just reinventing the wheel before I learned. And then I became a 2-year overnight success, which was a horrible thing. I don't recommend it to anyone, but it helps now. I'm in air conditioning, surrounded by video games. So my life is doing good after all that. Yeah.
Bro, listen, it's not wanting to keep bringing it back, but literally the first video I watched of yours pulled me to your account. Literally pulled me to your account to go
Which
through
one was
all of
it?
yours. Be honest with you, dude, I can't even remember what it was.
Uh,
I just know that like you were one of the first TikTok accounts that I came across and was
Thank
like,
you so much.
dude, this guy, I want to talk to him.
Thank
because
you.
because the conversations about mental health in general, because mental health's a huge thing for this show. Like
Yeah.
every episode we post has the suicide hotline on the bottom of it, and like mental health has always been a huge thing for me since before I even joined the military.
Right.
Because I had to understand my own mental health at a young age because I had I don't want to say they were anger issues, but I had some issues growing up that caused me to be very angry as a kid. Like, look at me sideways, I'm ready to snap on you type of thing.
Right.
So like I had to figure out my mental health as a kid already, and I was like, if I didn't have a supportive family, what would this be like for someone else who's going through the same thing I am?
Right. Yeah. I can completely agree with that, because it's one of those things to where with my platform, there's a couple things that I push, but I get upset. I'll actually get physically upset when I remember that we're taught PE in schools, physical education, but there's no ME, there's no mental health in schools. So if you were to ask, an 8th grader or 9th grader, do you understand what borderline personality disorder is? Do you understand that 7 in 1,000 men typically have narcissistic personality disorder? Do you understand that women are more likely to have depression, and the symptoms of all of these disorders can be seen as early as 12 and a half years old? And the fact that people don't know that, but they know about how to do push-ups, shows you that the education system hasn't been reformatted to help, rather than to push scores for taxes and funding to fund the school for supplies.
Oh, dude, for sure. I mean, what really, because like I said, mental health's always been a huge thing for me. But what really drew me to it was my senior year, I took a psychology class.
Yeah.
And because the human brain has always fascinated me.
Yeah.
Because you may think you have a handle on or know exactly how the brain's going to react to this, that, or the other. But then the next time you're put in a situation that your brain reacted one way, well, the next time it might react 2 different ways at the same time. Or even honestly, the human body has always fascinated me. I probably should have went to school for in the medical field, but I'm one of these West Virginia good old boys that said I'm gonna go into the trades and make more money than people that went to college.
Yeah.
But I want to segue away from that a little bit, though. I want to ask you, if you had to pick between DC and Marvel, which one you picking?
It's a rough one. People are gonna get mad at this one. I was obsessed with DC, but I'm sorry. The staple and the anchor store for DC is Batman, and there's only so many times you could keep rehashing and unraveling that story before I say, I don't think you're hiring people creative enough to come up with something new after all these years since Bob Kane in the 30s. You got to give me something new. You got to give me something fresh. And don't tell me you just have to take a conglomerate of characters and package them and repackage them in movies. I want to hear character development. So the problem I have with Batman and DC is the fact that I haven't seen good character development specifically with Bruce Wayne. And that's what we'd want to see. Whereas Marvel now, because you could tell I used to be a huge DC fan.
I can tell behind you.
Right? Yeah. If they didn't have Joker and Batman, Marvel would have gone out of business 30 years ago. It seems like if they would have sold those character rights to Marvel or something before Marvel went downhill. But Marvel did it right because they did the movies and they kept picking actors and giving them success stories, and everybody wants to be on the winning team for an underdog, and that's where they did right. And this is from a marketing sense. All this that I'm saying is from like a marketing sense. What I've learned from marketing over the years, they've done it right because they've done their casting, but they're going to start to go downhill soon. Marvel movies are going to start to go downhill soon. I would take my money out of their stock because they've gotten lazy with their casting, and they're just picking actors that no one's really attracted to or knows about. So right now it's Marvel. Soon I'll be over it.
Dude, so whenever it comes down to it, I'm a huge what DC's doing now fan. Like I love
on paper
their TV
or
shows,
on
TV
TV
shows and their movies. Because whenever I think of Marvel, I think of the kind like somewhat family friendly movie, right? You know, but then like DC. It's really dark. Like I watched Titans and I was like, holy shit, this is a superhero show?
Really?
Dude, it's blood, gore.
What's the show with the guy with the metal helmet?
Oh, guy with the metal helmet.
Yeah, John Cena plays him.
Oh, it's dude, it's on the tip of my tongue. It's on Amazon.
I watched every episode.
Peacemaker.
I watched every episode. And it's amazing, except for a couple things I didn't like. But besides that, like the show as a whole, I'd give it a strong like 7. Whereas I don't like any. I don't know. I haven't been able to do new Marvel, so I think you're right on that. Yeah, I do like some of the DC shows
because dark humor and like horror movies run my life. Like I love horror movies.
Yeah.
So to see that DC's going away from like a family friendly type, like I mean, they're not like striving so far into like the dark side of things that you can no longer take your kid to go watch Batman.
Yeah.
But it's getting to the point now, like in my opinion, like I just watched the new Batman.
Yeah.
And I liked it and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I was in between, so I was like, man, it's Edward Cullen. That's not Bruce Wayne.
It's a hard one. They picked a good niche because they saw where they could fit in on something a little bit darker. And then what I liked that they did with the Batman movie, I won't give any spoilers, is they did kind of the same thing that the Watchmen movie had done, and they made it somewhat believable. They stopped adding in all these crazy action scenes that are completely a million, like you'll never believe that would actually happen in real life. And they actually showed you a character who could get beat up a little bit and kind of like, you know, piss and whine a little bit afterwards. It was good to see kind of a little bit like normalization of Batman as a human.
What I really enjoyed was the story they used for Penguin. Instead of him being like the sewer dweller, like they did back at wasn't that Tim Burton's movie?
Yeah, it's Tim Burton's 92 or 90 or something like that. Yeah.
So instead of having that type of character, they used a character kind of like they did, like how Oswald was in the show Gotham. How he was like trying to be the next big conglomerate, and he was running clubs. He was in the clubs working, and they made him like more of a real person. Granted, the old Penguin was still a real person, but they made him more realistic than just this off the wall, crazy, super fat, big nose person. Not trying to be derogatory, but if you go back and watch that Batman, like you just look at that Penguin and you're like, I mean, how do you survive in the sewers that long?
Yeah, it was definitely a Tim Burton movie. It was definitely a Tim Burton movie back then. Yeah,
but hands down, that's one of my favorite Batmans ever.
The older one.
Yes, the older one.
Well, how old are you?
I'm 26.
So maybe it has a little bit of nostalgia for you too.
Okay, you're not wrong. But
yeah, it's like you remember watching it when you were a kid.
Dude, but I mean, I still stand on the ground that George Clooney played a good Batman too. So
you're going to be mad at me, man. You're going to be mad at me for this one. Are you ready? I think anyone can play a good Batman. And people get like, what? I'm like, yeah, because you just have to put the guy in the suit who has limited facial expressions and then talks like this. And it's one of those things where I don't want to see a good Batman. I want to see a good Bruce Wayne. And that's what I mean about the character development.
Who do you think has played out of the older TV show all the way up to the modern movie? Who do you think has played the best Bruce Wayne?
Oh, they're so two-dimensional. That's my problem, is that like it's either, hey, I'm gonna be act douchey and fool everyone so they'll never think I'm Batman. And I just really liked Robert Pattinson's Batman because he was unlikable. And that's how I want to picture this guy who is this wasting his time doing these things at nighttime. Like if you're looking at it from like the things he could be doing with his life as somebody who's like a young, attractive, rich person, anybody else would tell him you're wasting your time. And that's because he is actually kind of unlikable. The older ones, Michael Keaton, I'd say. I like him. I like Michael Keaton. Yeah.
Dude, I gotta agree with you on that one. I really do.
Yeah.
Because Michael Keaton, in my opinion, played the better Bruce Wayne. What threw me off with like Robert Pattinson version of it was like, you watch like other Batmans and like, in my opinion, like Batman, the way he played it was like he was still like like he showed it more on his sleeve that he was still upset about his parents than what other Bruce Waynes have played it. So like that threw me off a little bit, but I really liked it too because that showed that like the vulnerability of Bruce Wayne.
A little bit more human.
Yes.
Yeah, a little bit more human.
But I got one more question for you because for some reason Zoom's telling me I don't have a pro account and I do, and it's only giving us 8 minutes now.
Oh no.
I definitely want to run this back because I'm really enjoying this. Like I'd love to run this back later on down the road and talk some more. But
100%.
What is your best Magic deck?
Oh gosh, I grew up in the 90s. And I was unknowingly one of the first people, like that first generation, to actually play Magic. I thought Magic would have been out since the 70s. I guess it came out in the late 80s or early 90s. I started playing it in 1995, where it was very simplistic and very easy to learn. And I never built a good deck, and I was always upset about it. But my best memory now is the fact that my brother and I never got along as kids, and we never got along with Magic, even though I only played it to be just like him. And now 20 something years later, almost 30 years later, he built me a zombie snow deck that easily cost $1,000 of his own money. And he built it for me as a gift. So it's my favorite deck because I know he gave it to me as an apology that he could probably never verbally say.
That's tough to do too.
Yeah.
Dude, so like Magic is one of those games that like I got into a little bit.
Yeah.
But I was more of a Yu-Gi-Oh man back in the day.
So I'm 88, you're 96, so you're about 8 years younger.
95.
You're gonna be so mad when I tell you this, man. Pokemon just copied Magic, and Yu-Gi-Oh said we gotta do what Pokemon did with the Magic card thing. So Yu-Gi-Oh and everything was just, they're like, I'm that old. I'm becoming that old guy. They're copies. I'm like, they're copies. And everyone's like, I don't care. I like them. I'm becoming the old guy who's like gatekeeping card games.
Granted, I know I'm not that old, but it makes me feel old whenever like I hear someone say like, man, I listen to old songs with my dad, and they bring up like early 2000s like hip hop or something. And I'm just like, fuck, that was 20 years ago, wasn't it?
That was, yeah. The song, gosh, let me think. Are you ready? Like, do you remember the Usher song and Little John? That was like almost 20 years ago. That came out 2003, 2002.
Dude, I used to jam to that song as a kid. The edited version, obviously, but I used to jam to that song as a kid.
The Kids Bop version.
Yeah, Kids Bop.
I know. Did you really?
No, I used to jam. I had this long run in time where I got the Now That's What I Call Music CDs.
Oh.
Like my dad got the very first one that ever came out, and I had all of them up to like 14 or 15.
I need to know about your childhood because you are one of those kids that interested me. Because I was one of those kids that where it's like no dinner. I didn't have to shower. I never learned how to floss. There was like nothing. And I would see your childhood. I'd be like, I know you got snacks in your fridge right now. Let me listen to you. Let me listen to you. That's what I call music CD too. You're interesting to me. You smell good.
But dude, with that being said, I say we wrap this thing up. Save some conversation for the next time we bring you on the show, because you would definitely be coming back 100%. Because the way that you and I vibe, and this is the first time we ever talked, you don't run into that too often.
Oh, thank you so much, man. It's because you're easy to like, and I'm trying my best. You put those two together, and we got this.
But hey, let's tell people where they can find you on social media.
Right. So for everyone who's listening right now, you can find me on Instagram as well as TikTok using Matts.Alright. And then you can also find me on YouTube with just Matts.Alright. I post videos on every single platform consistently, and I'm easy to get a hold of as long as you message me specifically on Instagram. And then lastly, my Discord is Matt's Basement. I like to call it the basement because I pretend to be nice. And then I trick you with the chloroform. You're trapped. You're my fan forever.
You got any closing remarks for anybody?
Yeah, I do. If it means anyone, just know I mean this with my heart. Remember to be kind to yourself. You know, do something for yourself. It's okay to get extra sleep. It's okay to have that meal. It's okay to do what you have to do to survive, because it'll give you a chance to be kinder to other people. And make everyone's day easier. And I love you. Take care of your mental health.
With that being said, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Go check Matt out on all social medias. He's seriously great, and not all of his a lot of his content's funny, and a lot of his content is serious as well. And it'll hit home with you in multiple different ways. And I promise you, like, you will not be let down going and checking him out, because literally, I fanboyed whenever I saw he messaged me back. I was like, oh my God. But with that being said, everyone have a great rest of your week. Be safe, be responsible, don't drink and drive. Peace.